that? Storm?
That's not a storm. Outside! Jump onto something!
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2026 disaster film sequel, Greenland 2 Migration. The film is directed by Rick Roman Waugh and it stars Gerard Butler and Marina Baccarin. The film is a direct sequel to Greenland that came out about 4 years ago, something like that. And that film focused on Earth having to face a disaster, asteroids coming to Earth, destroying everything, and Gerard Butler and his family kind of heading across to try and get to Greenland to get to these underground bunkers to kind of save him and his family. I remember watching it, I remember reviewing it on the channel, and I remember quite enjoying it. I remember enjoying it far more than I expected to. So, I was, quite looking forward to checking the sequel out. This time round, it's set 5 years later. Gerard Butler and his wife and son have been living in this underground bunker in Greenland for 5 years. They've been trying to be as self-sustainable as possible. They've got this community going in there. They've got some kind of like council government sort of going to make decisions. They head out when they can to kind of do missions to find supplies, that kind of stuff, but it's not really much of a life. And then this one particular day it becomes very clear that they can't stay there anymore, so he takes his family and heads out on a very dangerous mission to across the wasteland of Europe to try and head to the crater, they call it. It's where the asteroid first hit. It created this massive crater, but it is actually now theorized that crater would be an ideal place to live because vegetation and stuff would have started to grow there very quickly. So that's where they're heading. They think there will be a community there, there will be safety there, but the journey to get there is anything but safe. Very much like the first film, he ends up not only dealing with the disastrous terrain and dangerous terrain, but the worst of humanity as well. Right, what are my thoughts on Greenland 2 Migration? Well, like I said, I quite enjoyed the first one, but it was one of those films that you watch and, you don't expect a sequel. It kind of, I think, told the story. And when you actually look at the box office numbers for that film, it didn't do gangbusters or anything like that. But I think it came out at the height of COVID. So it may well have done better on streaming services and things once it kind of left the cinemas. So obviously they thought there was enough here to make a sequel, which obviously they have done. But it just feels in many ways like a rehash of the first film. They've got a journey to go on, him and his family. They've got to travel, across this terrible kind of wasteland, and the dregs of society, if you like, of what has survived this, end of world event in the last film, to try and get to this other place that is deemed to be safe. As in the first one, this bunker in Greenland, it was deemed to be the place to be. You've got to get there to live and survive. Well, now it's no, actually, you've got to get to this other place, this crater in Central Europe somewhere. And once you get there, that'll be the perfect place to survive. So it's just really the same film, with different sequences in there in regards to, action sequences, stroke disaster sequences, or, sequences designed to kind of white knuckle stuff. And they are done well. There is a couple of moments in this film where you are genuinely a little bit like, oh my God, how are they going to get out of this? And a lot of that is down to the fine performances by Gerard Butler and Marina Baccarin, who draw you in to kind of root for their characters, to kind of really want them to survive. I think, you know, if it had been like a straight to DVD release or something like that with different actors or something like that, it definitely probably wouldn't have worked, I don't think. But they do a really, really good job, and you get to see, you know, the worst of humanity, which is really, you know, what the first film focused on. We get to see that again here, you know, how deplorable man can be when it's kind of desperate. And this film really does focus very heavily on it. But it's a very well polished film. It's got some very, very strong visual effects. If you are a major fan of the first one and you want to see how these characters, you know, how their story continues, then you probably will enjoy a big aspect of this. For me, I just felt like watching it, it just felt like the same film in many, many ways. Whereas the first one, much of the travelling across country and stuff like that, you know, society wasn't, you know, everything hadn't kind of crashed to earth yet. So, you know, the society was still kind of in one piece, but humanity was still, you know, in a very, very desperate state. Whereas this time it's now a wasteland for the most part, and it's like 5 years later, you know, the world is a much different place now. So yeah, I mean, you know, Gerard Butler does well here. They give him an arc in this film. Obviously, I'm not gonna spoil, but they give him an arc in this film that, you know, kind of by the end of the film, you know, you are emotionally invested in his arc and his family's arc. So that, you know, there's some smart, you know, writing or, you know, put into the film in order to create a situation where you're invested in the characters. So, and you are invested in the characters here. And you definitely are on board for a lot of what happens. So yeah, I mean, looking at the box office numbers for this is not doing good business. And part of me wonders why they wanted to do with, you know, a sequel to this. You know, if it was maybe a Netflix film where they just wanted to fund a sequel and throw it on Netflix, you know, they've got money to burn. But this seems like a strange idea to me, you know, because this is clearly not going to make anything like what the first one made at the cinema. And the first one, like I said, wasn't exactly a box office smash or anything like that. So, yeah, it's an odd one. It's a film that you probably shouldn't exist and didn't need to exist. But it's a decent continuation of these characters' story. It's well made, it's got good effects, and it's got strong performances, and it's got some standout set pieces as well. So that's my thoughts on Greenland 2. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen the first one, and if you're planning on seeing the second one. And I will see you back here on the channel with plenty more reviews and content very, very soon.